What's up everybody, this is DeanoGTO and today we're going to look at the new French heavy tank mini branch that's coming in patch 9.21. So, starting off the video with the MX 65T, skipping the M445 for now. I'm going to come back to that at the end, not going to do it right now though because, well, I feel like people are more interested in the new vehicles rather than talking about something that's been in the game for years. So, let's take a look here. So, the MX65T, initially when you're first looking at it, you think that's just a copy-paste of the AMX 5120 hull. However, it actually surprised me to see that they're actually surprisingly different. I mean, look at the tracks as an example. Look at how like these tracks here look like they're from the lava. That's how thick they are. Meanwhile, like these tracks here are much more in proportion with the actual tank itself. Also, something else important with the tracks. So these tracks here drip down to like the tops of the roller wheels. These tracks here though are held up by these little things here. So the effect this has is this is more like an IS-7's side armor, where you can shoot between the upper hull and the lower hull and get like a nice soft target to shoot at. Oh well, not the upper hull and the lower hull. I mean, like if you can shoot between the upper hull and the tracks and get like a nice soft area of armor to actually hit and consistently penetrate with ease. Meanwhile, the 5120, you have an incredibly narrow area where you can actually shoot the actual just raw lower side armor. So technically, the side armor on the 5120 is probably better. Also, another wee difference is the upper front plate. I think on this thing here is slightly better angled. And the lower front plate is a little bit more prominent, but still so small no one's going to shoot at. So, now onto the actual turret and stuff like that. By the way, in summary, the armor on the hull is not very good. The front hull armor, when it's angled like this, and you have to angle like this because it's peg-nosed, it only has about 170, 180 effective armor. So I would not recommend trying to tank hits with this thing at all. This thing relies more on staying hull down, which is kind of out of place. Honestly, I think they blew their load with the MX M449, making it a tier 8 premium. This should have been the tier 8 premium, and the M449 should have been the tech tree line. Because if you look at it, it kind of seems a little bit odd. It goes MX M445, MX65T, M451, M454. So all the other vehicles are M4 based, then this thing here, just 65T, just rounding me out of the blue. So, it does seem kind of out of place, but whatever at this point, because, well, as I said, I think they blew the load with the premium tank of M449. So, yeah, and actually speaking of the M449, there's actually something interesting I can get to in a couple of minutes with the stock turret. So, talking about the upgraded turret for now. So, this thing here supposedly has 250 millimeters of front turret armor. And that's true for this area here, and this little area around here, not including this tongue looking thing. So this tongue looking thing here, that's only 80 millimeters thick. And why, like, that's fine whenever you're facing things that are below you, or aiming up at it, or things that are just below, like, level with your gun. However, as soon as something's level with you, or is above you, they are going to penetrate this with ease. Because it all depends on the angling. Because this is such a big weakness of this vehicle. Like, honestly, like, I think this is a weakness a lot of people aren't actually going to expect. But this is going to be something that's going to be a nightmare for this tank. Because I think this could wind up being the cause of a lot of module damage for this tank. So, I just don't feel like this is really a necessary weak point. I think they should probably like increase the armor on this a little bit, maybe like to 100 or something, just to make it a little bit more survivable. But yeah, this seems like too much of a weak point for me at least. And it also seems kind of unnecessary, especially considering it has these two gen-ass weak points on top, in the form of this like basic M3 lead turret and this little cupola here. Like this, and the reason I call it the M3 lead turret is because look at how huge this thing is. This thing's massive. It's a gigantic cupola. So it doesn't really seem necessary to have this weak point here as well when you already have the weak points on top. So let's cover the armor for the most part. So let's go over the mobility next. So mobility on this thing is decent. I would describe this thing as being about Tiger 2 level in terms of mobility. The reason I said Tiger 2 level is because this thing, it actually feels slower than the Tier 9. I think this thing's being nuked by its soft stats. So that's a bit of an issue for the tank, but it still doesn't feel too bad mobility-wise. Still feels okay. It hovers around 30 kilometers an hour when you're driving on medium terrain, which isn't too bad. Like that's it's not like KV4 slow, so there's not really too many issues. It's not as fast as you may expect, but it's still decent speed-wise. As for the flexibility and the actual gun firepower and stuff, it has 8 degrees of gun depression with the top turret on both guns. The aim times do change a little bit. The actual big gun has a little bit faster aim time than the lower caliber 100mm gun. The big gun does actually have lower DPM as well, though. But something I should just mention here now: this 100mm. If you prefer this gun, I would almost I am almost 100% confident that you'd be better off using this turret than the top turret. The reason for this is the actual quoted armor value of 250mm actually covers the entire front of this thing's turret. And it only has one weak point rather than 3. So this turret here, I would say, is probably going to be the more survivable turret. This thing is going to be able to just sit there and just take hits to the face and not really have to worry about too much. It only has one weak point instead of 3, and it just seems like this is overall going to be the stronger turret. Plus it has another bonus. It has 10 degrees of gun depression instead of 8. So if you prefer the 100mm, this is probably the better turret to use overall. Although it does completely depend on like what you prefer yourself. So yeah. Let's see, anything else I really need to mention? So going over mobility, let's just go over the guns just to finish off. So the 100mm SF-47, this is a pretty universal gun on the French vehicles. It's been used on all of these vehicles here in the past, so if you've driven any of these vehicles and you have them elated, you would have this gun already. So that's pretty nice. You have one of the grinding guns unlocked from the very start. If you played any of these lines here before. So now, what I just mentioned is the radio operator. The radio is pretty universal. It's one of the radios that you can get on like Tier 7 as an example. Use this radio. It's pretty universal for French vehicles. I mean, look at this. Like it seems like the only like high tier French radio. And when it comes to the engines, this 850 horsepower engine here is the same engine that is used on the M445. So you're basically never going to be completely stock in this vehicle because you're going to have the midway engine and you're going to have the top radio along with the grinding gun. So that's pretty awesome in my opinion. Like that the Wargame actually decided to do that. So onto the actual guns themselves. So the 120mm gun is actually, I believe, the highest alpha damage on a Tech Tree heavy tank at tier 8 in the game. There are vehicles with higher alpha or equal alpha. The T-34, as an example, is equal, but that's premium. Defender has higher, but that's also a premium. So this is the highest alpha Tech Tree heavy tank, Tech Tree unlockable heavy tank in the game. So, our Tech Tree unlockable tier 8 heavy tank in the game, I should specify. But it's interesting to look at this here, actually. By the way, the 100mm gun. I'm actually just going to put. Do I have the top turret on this? I do not. Hang on. Go make sure I have the top turret installed, just so that the stats are as representative as possible. So the 120mm gun has a lower DPM, but it has higher alpha, it has lower penetration, but it has a faster aiming time but lower dispersion, or but worse dispersion, sorry. It seems kind of interesting that the way they balance this 120mm. It seems fairly balanced for the most part until you look at one particular aspect, which I noticed by accident the other day. So this thing has some of the most bizarre premium rounds I've ever seen. look at the penetration on that. That's 325. So you get 107 extra pen by pressing the 2 key. And it kind of makes sense actually, like, well, by the way, it doesn't make sense to have this on a tier 8, this is ridiculous on a tier 8, by the way. I should just explain that. But if you look at the tier 9 as an example, the tier 9 has exactly the same premium round. However, this premium round here should not be on a tier 8 vehicle. This tank here, this 120mm D1203, this should have this ammo here as its premium round max. Like that 325, that's 107 extra penetration. Just for pressing the 2 key. That's ridiculous. I really think that needs to be looked at. I mean, look at the penetration difference between the for the 100mm 232, 263. That's really not that much of a difference. It seems fairly balanced. And there's this thing here which is ridiculous. But yeah, I think the 120mm is probably going to be the more used gun on this tank because it's pretty much the unique feature. But I do see, like, I can't see why people would use the 100mm because it does seem like a pretty solid gun. Don't really have too many issues with it. But yeah, overall, seems like an interesting vehicle. It's going to be fairly fragile. The gun is going to be pretty unique for a tier 8 tech tree unlockable vehicle. Turret is not going to be as strong as you may have thought unless you're using the 100mm. But yeah, overall seems like a reasonably solid vehicle. Mobility's okay, but bizarrely it didn't feel as quick as the tier 9, which we're going to talk about now.